This podcast is brought to you by Most Valuable Podcasts, leading the league in podcasting entertainment.
Hello, college sports fans, and welcome to the Primetime Podcast. My name is Ricky Widmer, and as always, I'm joined by the one, the only, Brandon Swanson.
Hey.
And Brandon, today, it is now the official last podcast of football season. This is the last one. The last time we're going to be talking 2015 football on the Primetime Podcast.
And what a good season it was to talk college football. We had a great ending to a great season of just college football in general. Two great teams. It was a fun game to watch. They were in it. Clemson was in it till the very end. Alabama played well. Everyone played well. 45-40 the final score. No college football fan is walking away going, I didn't see a good game. They saw a hell of a game.
Well, and it was a great game. We're going to get into the game specifically a little bit later. However, the one thing I'm just thinking is this was the game we needed this year, especially after those two stinkers of semifinal games, especially that Alabama-Michigan State game.
Well, not just the stinkers of those semifinal games. How about the stinkers of bowl season?
Yeah.
I mean, it proved my point of no one cares. Because because if those are the games we're seeing, who wants to watch that? I mean, who wants to watch Tennessee win 45-7? Nobody. Tennessee fans by the middle of the game were going, shit! Can no one else score? You know, because at the end of the day, college football fans, they want to see competition. Mm-hmm. You don't want to see a blowout. That's not really that fun. I mean, even for fans of, you know, let's say number 1 through 5 teams, their team wins in a blowout, like, cool. I'm going to just go get drunk for the second half of the game.
I think the only other close game besides the national championship was that, like, Bahamas Bowl that I know Western Michigan won. I don't even know who they were playing, but I remember that being a close game. But we're going to start in the world of college basketball. And I want to throw a question out there, Brandon, because I was watching PTI this week, and they were kind of talking about something. If you guys know me, I get a lot of, like, my question topic stuff from PTI because I love Kornheiser. I love Wilbon. Wilbon's my boy. However, this topic I thought was perfect for us to finally start into basketball. Because let's be honest, basketball season doesn't officially start until after football season's packed up for the year. And this year, if you're just coming into college basketball, post-football, you haven't watched a lick of it, Kansas is a one-loss team. You got Oklahoma, Maryland, Michigan State. You have Xavier, Miami of Florida, West Virginia. Providence is a good 2-loss team. There's a lot of teams that you could throw out there. One undefeated in Southern Methodist. However, there's a lot of teams you can throw out there and say, this is a good team. There's no one team like we had last year in Kentucky that's like they are the powerhouse in college basketball. And Brandon, the question is simple. Is this good or bad for the game of college basketball?
I could see it going both ways. I could see it being a good thing for college basketball because since multiple teams are good, that means multiple fan bases get involved in it. That means that just plain college basketball fans are really excited. That it has something for them to take a look at and say, oh my gosh, like if this game's on TV, I'm going to watch this game because they're good. Mm-hmm. Or, oh, this one's being played now. Oh, this is a great matchup coming up too. Like you get excited for it. It's not just like what we saw last year with Kentucky being the powerhouse. For the most part, it was like, okay, Kentucky's really good, so Kentucky fans are happy, and college basketball fans in general are taking a look at Kentucky, but so Kentucky plays, okay, you're going to watch that one just because it's Kentucky, but then say you've got a LSU-Ole Miss matchup coming up. You know, I just threw those two names out there mainly because thinking college football, but you throw those two teams out there.
No one's going to watch it.
And people would go, you have this game on you have this on ESPN? Are you kidding me? No way. But this year, you could put a Xavier versus Providence. People are all over it because it's a good matchup because they're good teams.
Well, and
so
those
I think
are
it
two
does
smaller level teams. I mean, college basketball is a little different than football, but those are two lower level teams compared to like the Kansases, the Oklahomas, the Marylands.
Absolutely, but those are the teams that, when it comes down to it, those are the teams that are going to make probably a good tournament run when it comes to it at the end of the season. And those are the teams that are fun to watch. You don't always, being a sports fan in general, obviously I have my teams that I root for, and everyone knows it. But when it comes down to it, you want to see good games. You want to see good teams. It's fun seeing, the same teams sometimes because those are the powerhouses. But after a while, when you continue to see some of these teams, it's like, it's not fun to watch. It's not fun to be a part of if you're a fan or things like that. So when your team's doing well, when there's other teams doing well that maybe weren't there last year, when you get some more, I guess, quote unquote, surprise teams, that's what makes it exciting.
Well,
that's what brings more people into it because they're like, whoa, where'd they come from? Where'd George Mason come from? Where'd this team come from? I'm going to watch them now and follow them all season long. That's exciting. That is college basketball.
Isn't that the essence of college basketball, though? Like you just said, with the whole excitement where anybody can win on every given night, and then you get the ones like, you mentioned George Mason because a few years ago they made that great tournament run. To me, this is setting up okay, maybe it can be March all year round. It can be that time. I'm going to give you a couple games that happened in the past two days. We're recording this podcast a little bit later in the week on Thursday because we had that national title game to watch Monday. However, Tuesday night, you get these matchups. Number 1 Kansas falls at West Virginia. Great game. And West Virginia, the 11th ranked team in the country. They're no joke. Then you also get Michigan beating Maryland for their second loss of the year. And on top of it, you get Providence last second 3 to beat Creighton 50-48. Then yesterday, Oklahoma. So they survive one of the toughest road forms they're going to have in Oklahoma State. And then you have the Clemson Tigers. Yeah, their football team might have lost to Alabama on Monday, but Brandon, on Wednesday, they upset the Dukies. And I know how much you like when the Dukies fall, especially to a team like Clemson, who it's okay, not ranked. But to me, this sets up, you can't just look at the ranked opponents. You can see it and go, okay, well, Kansas can be number 1 here. You can make a case for Oklahoma to be number 1. Maryland, maybe before they lost to Michigan, that they could be number 1. Last year it was all, did Kentucky win? Okay, they're number 1. It creates a little bit more discussion. And like you said, the fan bases get into it, but also it kind of gives momentum to those teams that aren't in the top rankings. You know what? This Kansas team coming into our house, we may not be ranked, but we can beat them. This is our house. We can defend it. It kind of creates a more spread out league, which I think is good. I like more spread out than that one Kentucky goes undefeated to the Final Four and then loses to a Wisconsin.
I'll tell you what. I think there's probably there's probably a line right down the middle on people who are in favor of parity and people who like how it's always been. There's probably a good amount of people who say, you know what, hey, let the good teams keep winning. Let the Dukes be at the top, the North Carolinas, the Michigan States, all those teams. Let them be at the top because that's fun. That's where they're supposed to be. And let the teams who are supposed to be bad be bad. But then there's other people on the other side of that line that say, hey, I love when I see an upset. I love when I see a team come out. Like me this year, Ricky, really quickly, is that you and I both, I think we came into this year, Oklahoma ranked as high as they were.
Yeah.
Oklahoma, I mean, that's not someone I had on my radar in the Big 12. You think your Kansas is and stuff like that, but Oklahoma was not on my radar. They're the number 2 team in the country.
And mainly
they
because
could
of
have
Buddy
that
Hield.
case for number 1. I mean, if anyone saw, and if you missed it, you missed out on a good one. Oklahoma and Kansas. That was one hell of a game going 3 OTs, baby. That is the definition of college basketball to a
And
T.
it wasn't even March. It was not. Usually it's, okay, I'll tell you what, folks. This is usually the college basketball season for me. You know what? Kentucky's on. They're undefeated. Sure, I'll watch here. Oh, I'll watch this game here. It's Kansas against Iowa State or Kansas against Oklahoma. Okay, cool. It's going to be a big game. Oh, I've got Michigan State on the Big Ten Network. I'll watch that tonight. And then I get to conference tournament time, and it's like, what? Texas did what against Kansas State? Two teams that I never even care about. And, I mean, I just threw those two teams out there because they're lower teams. They're no Kansases. They're no Oklahomas. But it's like, what just happened? Or a Big West showdown. That who gives a fuck about the Big West? However,
Who's the Big West?
When it comes to conference tournament time, I'm watching all those conference tournaments. I'm waiting for that highlight on ESPN. Guess what, folks? We're getting that right now. And I know that last kind of analogy I threw out there, maybe a little far-fetched. No one's talking about the Missouri Valley Conference right now.
Not yet.
Not yet. We may be talking about Illinois State Redbirds later in the season, but who knows? But right now, all the conferences that we care about, Big 12, Big 10, the American, the SEC, the Pac-12, they have competition. And they have competition throughout any matchup. I'm going to throw out another one. Overtime game, Texas beats Iowa State at home 94-91. Huge win for Shaka Smart.
How about another one? Texas at home beats North Carolina early on in the season. How about that? I mean, that just goes to show you. I think really Ricky and I have been hitting on this theme, and we've said it now a couple of times, is that is the culture, that's the nature of college basketball.
And it's good to have it this early in the season.
That's what you want to see because, as much as everyone loves March. Why? Oh, the weather's getting nice. No. College basketball.
Yeah, that's why they call it March Madness.
But I think more people are happy to be more involved and invested now and not just in March. Like, oh, it's March. Now I'll pay attention. I'll fill out my bracket. Oh, wait. Who do I pick? Because I haven't been watching all year long. Oh, they're a 4. They'll probably win. That's kind of the mindset, I think, when we get to a lot of months of March. But you're right, Ricky. In a year like this that we're having so far, I'm a big proponent of it. I'm a big fan of it because it is getting people involved. It's getting more people involved, and it's getting more people excited.
Well, the one thing I got to throw out there is, do you think this new wave of, I'm going to say new wave of no top dog number one at the top, does it hurt the casual fan? Because is it more of like the casual fan's not going to watch because it's not that Kentucky against whoever? Is this going to, ESPN can't play the promo of, is this the first loss for the Kansas Jayhawks? Or is it, you know what? I'm a casual fan. Fuck, I'm just going to watch this game because it's probably going to be good no matter who the teams are.
This is good for the casual fan. This is good for the casual fan because then they're not watching, like I said, they're not watching just the same games. They can turn on, the Big 12 network. Boom, good game. They can turn on the Big 10 network. Boom, big game. They can turn on ACC, big game. All these different conferences finally have big games. Where it's just, well, Duke's playing North Carolina tonight. Been waiting for this for 2 months. That's not what we're having. Helps the casual fan.
Well, like another game I'm going to throw out there is the 4 overtime thriller that the Trojans beating the Wildcats of Arizona. I looked over like, the Trojans have a basketball team? Of course I knew they had a basketball team, folks, but let's be honest. They have not been relevant for so long. I probably still think that Tim Floyd's still their coach. He's probably not. But that's the last time I paid attention to USC basketball. And you kind of mentioned something that I'm going to throw out there. This is going to make March Madness a lot harder. It's going to make bracket time, when you're penciling in those brackets, a lot harder. Because let's be honest, last year, unless you hated Kentucky, I'm going to have them go all the way to the national championship, they'll probably win. Or if you're more of a realist, you were like, okay, maybe they'll go to the Final Four. but they're not going to beat this team in the Final Four. Then they can actually get upset. I'll be honest, this year, you'll probably fill out your brackets going, okay, I get this 1-8 matchup. Oh, damn, that 8 can beat this 1. Do I put that 8 to go on? Or if they move on, I don't know. This 3 can beat this 1. I think the 1 seed is not going to be as strong this March as we've seen in past years.
I was just going to say, who does this hurt the most?
The 1 seeds.
College basketball brackets in March. That's who it hurts the most because of what you just said. It's not just automatic 1 versus 8. The 1. You got to look and you got to go, whoa, this 8 is good. They're competitive. They had a good season. This 1 is good. Obviously, they're a 1. But this 8, though, dang, what do I do? That's going to make it hard.
Well,
but that's the only thing that it hurts. In my mind, this situation, that's the only thing that it hurts because everything else, it helps the game of college basketball. It is what the game of college basketball is supposed to be.
Because let's be honest, and I'm saying in years past because I'm already assuming that this year March Madness is going to be different because of what we're seeing now. It's usually the 9-8s, the what would it be? The 3-14, the 12-5, the 6 seed versus the 6-12. It's those middle matchups. Usually the 1-16, the 2-15. Okay, cool. You're going to move on. However, I believe there's usually 1-2 seed that gets upset by a 15 seed. And let's be honest, it's usually Kansas or Duke. When they're a 2 seed going up against a Lehigh who's 15, CJ McCollum usually upsets you. And also, I got to drop this bomb. I did fact check myself. Tim Floyd has not been the head coach of the Trojans since 2009. So that gives you a little bit of reference of the last time I checked in on Southern Cal basketball. It's been a while. It has been a long time. But I'm going to ask you one question before we go back to football. We have 2 undefeated teams in college basketball. SMU, who, when I told you about them, I said, hey, should we talk about these guys? Pre-show, you said, tell the listeners what you said, or do you want me to say it? Brandon goes,
I said,
who are they?
It doesn't really matter. Who are they?
Who are they?
Doesn't matter that they're undefeated.
They're undefeated, and the Gamecocks of South Carolina are undefeated. Does it matter? You kind of answered it for SMU. Does it matter that they're undefeated? And how long do these teams stay undefeated, do you think?
To be quite honest with you, I don't think it really matters that they're undefeated because I think we're going to see, not that I think we're going to see more losses by teams and they're all going to be kind of bunched together, but I think it doesn't necessarily matter if you're undefeated or not this year. I think it's just who's competitive, who's going to grind it out at the end because, we got some good teams towards the top who are not undefeated, but they're grinders. That's why they're good. And I think that, then you have a team like Purdue who for a while they were right there, like in the middle of the pack, winning games, undefeated, not playing anybody. And they take a couple of losses. And it's like, okay, well, not as good as we thought.
And I got to interject a little bit because I looked, the rankings on ESPN are not completely updated with the wins, losses. SMU is the only undefeated team because guess who beat Arkansas yesterday, Brandon? Your team. They won the national title in football.
Bam,
Your boy. Roll Tide. So the Gamecocks have a loss. That doesn't matter.